Hi, Adam. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. No, thanks for having me. Really looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. I'm excited for this conversation. There's a lot of ground to cover, a lot to unpack with you, and everything that you've got going on. And Seesy, first of all, offers a fresh take on recruitment by utilizing AI and video, and you've got your pretty unique go-to-market and value proposition. What inspired you to start this venture? In the recruitment sector.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think first of all, everyone says that something's unique and different. We're all trying to at least improve on, I think, what was there before. The inspiration for me actually came from the fact that I've owned recruitment businesses before. I've owned and own other businesses, so I've been within recruitment as an employer, and I just felt that the whole recruitment space, talent acquisition, was largely undisturbed still. Many other areas and industries had moved forward. Much of it had baked in multimedia, how people consume media, how they share media, and I just felt that recruitment hadn't changed. I felt it was very one-dimensional. It was relatively uninspiring and boring, and it wasn't fit for purpose today in how we look at and assess talent. I myself didn't go a conventional route through education and what have you. My wife is heavily dyslexic. She's also very successful in business. So neither of us would necessarily score particularly well, I think, by a CV alone. So I felt there was just some work to be done there that we could help introduce talent and perhaps jobs to people differently in a way that was better suited for today.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So you've obviously, your background has created that expertise, experience in recruitment, but as well as that the sort of passion and drive for like you say, on paper might not be your CV, if you've ever written one of those back in the day, might not shine you in the best light. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, meet you in person and everything that you've sort of experienced and how you are as a person. It's bringing that through and helping others do the same. There's just way more than just, a CV. And the thing with CVs nowadays is kind of crazy. I don't even know what that process looks like, because who wouldn't write a CV using AI? So how can you actually get a true reflection of the authentic person behind that? So yeah, I guess that's quite a big problem, and you're looking at really solving that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's about the CV is supposedly the ultimate barometer as to someone's candidacy, how suitable they are for the role. We know that you don't hire off a CV. There's other parts that then take place thereafter, whether it's an interview live, asynchronous, in person. There might be competency-based testing and other things that take place that ultimately form the requisite parts to decide whether you want to hire someone or not. A lot of that involves the person, as it should involve the person, and not what the person writes about themselves or somebody else does on their behalf. Therefore, we wanted to bring the person into the process way earlier. In fact, right at the start of the application. That's something that I think with technology enables you to look to do that and make that possible. Without technology, it's possibly more challenging. Well, it's certainly more challenging because of the volume of applications that we get today. I mean, that's the problem. That's the other thing from the client side that we looked at in terms of what we were trying to solve here is applicant volume, because applicant volume is so high. You can apply for roles from so many different places now. Whether it's social media, direct LinkedIn, job boards, in the restaurants, scan a QR code, lots of different ways and settings. That the applicant volume is the challenge. If the applicant volume is a challenge, then the way that they screen that huge pile of applicants is arguably going to be not great, because it's time pressure. So I think tools in which can help ensure that everybody is screened, so everyone gets reviewed, not just the percentage of the pile that you can get through. If everybody can be screened and reviewed on a broader basis, rather than how well did you do at school, who do you work for, have you jumped jobs a couple of times, because it's one-dimensional, And I think if we can do both of those two things without or with a significant reduction in bias, that probably gives more people a better chance of getting a better job, which is great for people, and it's also good for businesses. So that's our goal. Our what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, and it is. It's, I mean, like owning a business, running a business, it's the two biggest issues you have is like the growth side of the business and the team and people side of the business, and you're really focusing on that. And you've started, grown, run businesses for over a long period of time, different businesses before Seesy. Tell me a little bit about more about your background, like the lessons that you've learned, mistakes that you've made that's really shaped your leadership role now in growing this company.
We need a longer podcast. I think we'd have to do a 4-part series to go through those and to go through the mistakes. I mean, look, it's been a non-conventional journey. I've been a non-conventional candidate, shall we say? I've always been someone that I think has been a disruptor, whether that's a disruptor in the classroom or whether it's a disruptor, sort of generally. I've looked to try to challenge and question things. I think that's, in some sense, it's been a strength for me. In other sense, it's been a little bit of an anchor for me. But I've always looked to see how we can, try to improve things and maybe try to solve problems and, in some sense, try to help people, at the same time. So that. I suppose that's been a little bit, about me. I've always been someone that is running. If I'm not running through brick walls every day, then something bad's going to happen. So that probably comes from a place of childhood. But again, that's been a strength and a weakness for me because it creates. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a soldier. I'm someone that is very resilient, but also stubborn and pig-headed. So, I think my natural desire to want to be successful, to build, to grow, to help, to innovate, to challenge, and to change, I think is all really important. I think my ability to be resilient and to just keep getting back up, is also helpful. I think how I've had to change and evolve actually is slow down in some areas, and listen, and learn. And moving into technology has helped me understand and appreciate the value of data, not just what I think, or or the one person that I spoke to thinks. That might not be the case. Are there better ways that actually we can validate or test this hypothesis? And you don't always have to run at full pace. Always. Quite often, I think I've ended up coming into many dead ends kind of along the way. So yeah, so I think a lot of my natural makeup, or the makeup from my nurture, I think is very well set up and suited for trying to break ground like this. But my evolution and my style has actually been to slow me down, listen more, and also value finding really good people. I've been a bit too much of a one-man warrior with a team of people and with some successful businesses, but it's almost like it's me and then it's them. And I think actually I've been over the last sort of tranche of, I suppose, my iteration of my career, more focused on building a team, and actually it's really important to get great people that complement each other well, and that's where you build long-term success.
Yeah, interesting. It sounds like there's been a lot. It's that experience, learning from lessons and mistakes, and you've matured over the years to become more patient, slowing down to make the right decisions, maybe be more collaborative with team. And you also mentioned in our previous conversation, you also do some mentorship. So obviously that's a value for you. Giving back the lessons that you've learned to others. Totally,
yeah. I mean, I put a little sort of slightly personal, softer post today on LinkedIn, which spoke about me as a dad, but also in terms of that fulfillment and purpose. Again, I've always been someone that, from a very young age, after I was asked politely to leave my second college, And my tutor very kindly said, you should be in sales. My mate owns an estate agent. I'm going to get you a job. And he did. So from 17, that was kind of me working in that sense. But everything has always been about, acquiring nice things and success, and all that science, sort of stuff is what you must strive for to feel happy and fulfilled. The irony is over if you do manage to get some of that stuff, and maybe like me, you've got it and lost it a couple of times along the way through some of these decisions, and whether it's a mistake or whether it's a piece of learning. I think piece of learning is more valuable. Actually, for me, the real fulfillment is the giving back and the helping. So I like to do that. I've done okay. Many other people have done much better, and obviously my journey is still to go. But I've got a lot of life lessons, right from kind of bringing myself up as a kid, really, to sort of where I am now. And I've made a number of, again, whether they're mistakes or they are my learning chapters that allow me to share that with my kids and my family, but also with others. And I really enjoy working with other people. So yeah, trying to give back, trying to help where I can, at least offer a perspective and and a view, I think is important, and I certainly get a lot from that.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And it sounds like you're very self-aware. Like you've developed this sort of self-awareness over what you're like as a character and your traits, and reflecting on that. Has it always been that case, or is it more like as the years go by, you get more experience, you reflect more? How does that kind of happen?
Yeah, sounds very sort of cliche and cheesy. I think with age comes wisdom for sure, but also with pain comes wisdom. If you keep jamming your toe in the door, at some point you might think, I might move my foot, and I'm going to stop doing that because it really hurts when I do that. So there's a combination of those two things. And again, my journey is part of that resilience and stubbornness. I'm going to keep doing it because in a minute something else is going to change. But eventually you get to the point where you think, and you know what, I'm going to find a different route here. So yeah, I mean, I think again, dipping into a bit of a personal thing. I got to a stage a number of years ago. Probably the most important pivotal part for me was about maybe 6 years ago, where I totally burnt out and totally broke down. Really, physically and mentally, it sort of zeroed. And so it actually wasn't through wisdom. It's probably through just being on zero, where I saw, okay, now let me maybe try and relearn some stuff. And I dipped into lots of different things, which I still, work on now. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about the stuff that I do and the work that I do, which is daily, to allow me to be able to be in a very stressful environment with sort of multiple things, lots of pressure, and just be more effective than I was before. Definitely not perfect and a long way from that, but just more effective. I would often be in high pressure situations, destructive, have the ability to rebuild it, but also be quite destructive. Whereas now it's about trying to be a bit more constructive, kind of where you can. So yeah, I've done a lot of work, kind of on myself from the self-reflecting side, but also just relearning stuff. What we learn through our teens and our early 20s and mid 20s, it isn't necessarily, or it wasn't for me, the DNA that you're going to stick by and stand by forever. You should continually look to learn. And I love learning. I love reading. I love watching and listening to people and meeting people and listening to their stories and their perspectives and views. And I think it's really important. It's a really important quality that the earlier people can appreciate the value of learning. By you giving me your view or us having a discussion about it, and yours might be different to mine. It doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa, or that you're telling me that I'm wrong. I mean, it's just it's your view. So yeah, it's a growth and learning is a really important part of that.
Totally agree. It's really interesting as well, right? Because when you were at school, I can imagine learning was not something that you were interested in doing, like you kind of alluded to it. And then as you get into your adult life and you start growing businesses, you have to learn things that are then applied to the real world. So you're learning that with the context of it makes sense to learn this thing because this is how I grow, internally, but then this is how I grow my business because I'm solving the next problem and solving the next problem. And that I've had the exact same experience, and I love learning now, but it's learning for the sake of like, this is the problem, that I've got to overcome. This is how I'm going to grow to the next step. Whereas in school, it doesn't, a lot of the time you're like, why do I need to know this? You're not giving me the context. You're not giving me the why. So yeah, it's an interesting journey to go on for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. You quickly mentioned, like, so did you say you have like daily practices to be able to operate at a high level in high stress situations? Like, can you just briefly kind of give me a clue as to what you kind of do?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I know, again, LinkedIn's a funny place where some people, share and talk about their morning routine type stuff, and others sort of rubbish it a little bit by saying, it doesn't equal anything. It's whatever works for whoever. For me, it's really important. I'm a massive believer in, if you've got a really racy brain, a really, high functioning ADHD brain, like I've got, it's really easy. Well, it can be great because you can balance multiple tasks, but also it can be terrible because you can think about too many things, procrastinate, and do basically nothing. When you bring that into a high stress situation, you're now carrying lots of different stress points and trying to wrestle your way through, a bag of rattlesnakes. So for me, being able to find ways that I can do two things. One is give my mind some rest, and two, put myself in stressful situations that would normally invoke an emotionally fueled reaction, which is my survival mechanism. Can I get better at not doing that? They're the two areas of me that I try to work on. So I get that from my morning routine. Is I am up early naturally. I don't set the alarm. I'm up at sort of 5ish, just after 5 o'clock. So the first thing that I will do is I will drive. I'll drive to my gym. No phone. Don't look at my phone. Not interested. Won't look at anything at all. It's such, again, cliche, but really, really important. You see any bit of bad news on there, micro stressors get triggered. Oh, damn, forgot to call so and so. Didn't email that report, whatever it was. Can't change it there and then, and no one else is up, so forget about it. So no phone. Drive towards my gym. Coffee shop. Have a coffee. And I sit and read for about half an hour every single morning without question. I have to read / enjoy reading with like piano chill music. That's partly because it helps me focus on the book because there's something else in the background. So that's my thing. I read for half an hour. I'm in the gym. I'll train for 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour. And then I go in the sauna, and then I go in a cold plunge every single day before I do anything, 7 days a week. For me, what those things are, the reading is with the music in the background. I'm not thinking about anything else apart from I'm reading. So that's my mental rest. It's really, really important. Plus I'm learning. Sometimes I get inspired, I get new ideas, I think about, I reflect. It's really good for all that area of growth. The gym, obviously, physical benefits, releases good quality dopamine and all that kind of stuff. And then interestingly, I've always found being in cold water really easy. It doesn't stress me out. I like it. I can breathe really well. And you've got huge physiological benefits, changes the chemicals in your body, as well as the recovery stuff and what have you. The stressor for me was the sauna. Being in the sauna, I didn't like it. I get hot, irritable, itchy. I'm quite claustrophobic. Someone's too close to me. In fact, you might be touching me. You're making too much noise. I can't concentrate. It's hot. I can't breathe. Panic. I'm going to get out, and I get angry. So I knew I had to keep myself and learn to be comfortable in that environment. So now I'm in there every day for 25 minutes, and sometimes I'll stretch it for 30, and I find that last 5 minutes really hard because I want to get out now. But that's really helped me be able to be put into high stress situations that the emotional, chimp comes out, the emotional reactive person starts to come out, but be able to relax, breathe, and kind of put that away and actually think a little more logically and a little calmer about the situation. So that's kind of why I do that. So I think part of it is I like routine. Part of it is I do get a lot from it.
Yeah, really cool. I actually relate a lot to that. That when you're talking about the sauna and the heat, and compared to cold water plungers and like cold showers and stuff, like I find it way harder to stay in saunas for a longer period of time. It's way more uncomfortable than taking those like cold water plungers, like ice baths and stuff. So yeah, really interesting. I've never actually heard anybody else sort of talk about that, the difference. And yeah, it's because I guess it's all about the meaning that you attach to them. It's like people attach this meaning to jumping in a cold shower, like it's going to put you in that state. And it's so part of it is the mind, and then part of it is just, yeah, I guess how your body reacts to different states, what you're used to. You're out in Dubai, so like you're kind of, I would have guessed like you'd be more used to the heat out there. But yeah, interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean it's different to a degree because of that. It's that enclosed space as well, so you've got a little bit of the claustrophobic stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit then about sort of, Seesy. You already touched on Seesy's like value proposition and what you do, but there's been a journey to get to where you are right now with, pivoting, like making mistakes, challenges, and then finding your way, finding your path. You're in a pretty exciting time now when it comes to really focusing on growth after a pivot, like even just at the beginning of this year. So tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, Seesy started. So Seesy's original, the ideation I had, what I wanted to build, and what we built ultimately was a job board. Because, like I say, this was all about helping more people get better access to more jobs, and it was about both companies changing the way that they advertise, or growing the way they advertise, rather than it just being a general job summary on a job board text copy. Give people an insight into the people, the business, the culture, the environment, and let's use multimedia to do that, to better show the opportunity. And also let's add some video to applicants, to applications. Let's be able to show a little bit about the person and allow them to show themselves and talk about themselves or answer a question. Like, let's just bring some multimedia into that. So we built a job board. It was something that I felt and still feel is really important. The challenge that we found with that, and what I underestimated, was the challenge of building a marketplace product. I mean, we just didn't raise enough money. Was the first thing. We raised money when money was relatively easy to raise in terms of sort of 2022. When we needed to look to raise some more money in 2023, end of 23 kind of thing, it was very hard. I mean, capital markets were just done. Oh, that's what we found anyway. So although what we built, we proved and validated lots. For example, job boards in the UK, the average, the data says, is about 2.5% of applications are shortlisted. We were averaging around 30% of applications that will come through that were shortlisted. So the data validated that by a combination of introducing jobs to people differently, we and I feel better using multimedia, insightful content, getting a feel of, as I say, people, culture, environment. They are able to make a more definitive decision as to, yeah, I like that, I'd like to apply for that, or that's not for me. And that's fine. When it's vanilla or nobody reads a job summary, they just apply. So they're applying pretty unknowingly as to what they're applying for. So give them a way to understand more, better. Give them a way to become more interested, more excited, better. And applying themselves with a way that allows them to show a bit more about who they are, that's also better for the recipient because they're now more interested, more informed at an earlier stage about the applicant. So those two things together is what gave us that data. So that was great, and that was really, really successful. There were loads of challenges. I mean, huge amounts of challenges around textability, around uptake, around journey, certainly from from a UX perspective. So that there's all that kind of stuff and challenge that took us time to iterate, play around with to start to get something that was working better. The most significant challenge, as I say, building a marketplace was hard. So actually, every time we brought a new client on, we ended up having 250 companies using it, 25,000 or so applicants that applied for jobs. Every time we brought a new company on, we're now responsible to provide them with applicants. So now we have to also find more applicants. So the more companies you bring on, the more accountable you are to provide them with applications. Forget the fact that the underlying tech or the journey itself was great and different by bringing this multimedia process into the job board. It was the consistency of providing them with a consistent number of applicants that they were happy with. And we found that we just struggled to kind of get or see growth and scale in that without having to raise significant money. At the same time as that, from speaking to a lot of these businesses, I established that the pain point for them actually was not we don't get applicants. It was we get too many applicants from the incumbent job boards. So by you giving us more applicants, that doesn't necessarily solve our problem because we still feel like we need to look at what we're used to and maybe have a look at this new thing as well. So we're almost doing more work at the moment. Also, if you then think if we're giving you a CV and a video, although it's more insightful, it takes you longer. So we're adding to the pain point to a degree. It's just a different flavor. So the main pain point was applicant volume they already get and the quality of the applicants and the amount of time they have to spend assessing those applicants to try to find the 2.5% that are worth or are suitable, I should say, meeting with in this particular setting. So that was their pain point. So I just thought, hang on a second, although I love it, we're trying to push innovation. We're not actually solving a problem, really. Although I felt we weren't solving a problem. So I just said, how can we use what we've learned, the fact that video and multimedia is definitely better and more helpful for all parties. But can we use that to solve their problem? And that was where the pivot came in to, okay, well, let's look to pivot away from a client acquisition type provision tool being a job board, and let's focus on a talent screening tool. So then that was where we then looked at, and I went back to the drawing board to look at how can we keep what we want to keep, rebuild what we need, and pivot into a SaaS product, first of all, and pivot into a talent screening tool.
Yeah, really interesting insight, and I mean it's critical to just take that feedback as you move along your journey. Really listen to the feedback that the market's telling you, and understand without what's your kind of mindset going through the change when you're sort of so far down one track, and then it's like you have this realization that we need to really clearly define the problem that we're solving and then pivot the business. Do you have a phase of like letting go of attachment to things that you've built and started to really be invested in? What's kind of the mindset and the thought process?
Yeah, not really so much now. Again, I think earlier in my career, probably yes, more so out of ego and pride, rather than attachment. Just not wanting to admit that perhaps you were wrong. Certainly, as you get older, you're able to do that. The challenge, I suppose, I had was not from an ego perspective, but then speaking to shareholders to say, look, we need to pivot. So whether we were wrong or we weren't wrong, actually, it doesn't matter. What's more important here is this is what the market is telling us they need, and therefore this is what we do. So it's removing some of that personal attachment and fear to it and look at it from a logical perspective. I like ideation, creation, new stuff. So for me, it's really easy to go into something new. I probably have to do the opposite. I probably have to stop myself from wanting to change direction all the time. That's the thing that's one of, I think there's two potential downfalls here with businesses and founders, whether they work out or they don't. One is they refuse to pivot and change, and one is they pivot and change too much too quickly every time they get one piece of data. So trying to understand and know when do you make that decision. I think one of the bits of learning that I had was, we were looking at, and I was thinking, we're just not getting this right. This was in the early days of the original version of Seesy. This is great. I know it's great. Why don't people say, yes, please, can I use it? Even if it's for free, they're still saying no. Why would they say no? And then I realized that it wasn't that the market didn't exist or the product was wrong or it was bad. It was how it was being packaged and presented. So actually, it might be the messaging. It might not be that you haven't got product market fit, or you're barking up the wrong tree, or you're not solving someone's problem. You might just be messaging it in the wrong way. And we were messaging it in a way that was like innovation, revolutionary, this video, all of these other and it's like, hang on a second, that's so much change. I'm really busy. I haven't got time for that. I'm just going to stick to doing this. So actually simplifying what you do, reducing the amount of buzzwords, reducing the amount of words, and just trying to keep it super simple, was definitely learning for me. Coming from a sales background, you want to try to sell it. So it was like I used to say to one of the guys that work with us, if we've got basically one show, this is our one show, come and watch our show. If you don't like it, we're done. We have to be able to have different shows, and then try to find a show that works more frequently. So reduce some of the sort of Hollywood lights and the jazz of it, and actually just kind of be really clear in this is currently the issue. I mean, even that in itself, your job board currently is producing 2.5% of applicants that come through that you would want to meet. Ours is 30%. Spend less time finding better people. Have a look at it. Okay. I haven't mentioned video. I haven't mentioned revolution. Mention any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that was really important.
Yeah, really, really good insight, because it's so critical to get that message in, and it's usually hitting on some simple messaging that really gets that attention, really is clear about solving that problem. But it ain't easy to do, because you're taking this complex thing that you built and really boiling it down into its most simple form, and then testing it enough times without being without jumping around too much to get enough data to feel that, okay, now we're getting on the right track with the message, because this is really starting to resonate in the market. It's critical.
Really, really hard, and again, sort of pivoting into the tool that we have now. It takes time. It's taken time to try to reduce down. Someone says, "What do you do?" And first thing you give them is 850 words, and then second time it comes down to 450, and then it reduces and reduces and reduces. You try to get it down, as low as you can. It was, as we were preparing for this, I wrote a couple of things down, and the thing that we try to use and say in terms of the underlying sort of value proposition and what Seesy is and tries to do, and it's faster personalized assessment on richer data. That's what the tool does. If we look at what the problem that we're trying to solve is, the problem, as I said, high volume, low suitability of applicants. Everybody has the same challenge, and you couple that with how applications come in traditionally. It's a CV. So what can you do? All right, you can use a parsing tool or a skill word match. It's one-dimensional. It doesn't really solve it doesn't solve the problem. If you're in a sales-based role, you could be selling a million different products or services to different countries, territories, people, products, solutions, services, products. If sales is picked up within a keyword match or skill word match, it's going to kind of give you everyone. I have the problem. I've done a couple of videos on it with LinkedIn. You go through the way that they laid a screen. It's like, good fit, maybe, unknown, and not a fit. If you use that and you click on good fit, you typically get none. If you click unknown, you get everybody. It's like, okay, well, great. Now I just have to go and look at 250 profiles, kind of thing. So, trying to find, we felt that we've certainly thrown our hat in the ring with a way and a solution that you can bring a, more of a bespoke human approach on scale to assess talent at the top of the application funnel, better and on richer data. And that's kind of what we've done.
Yeah. Is it the first time, with the different businesses that you've grown and exited from, like, is this the first time you've been in software and a SaaS, like building a SaaS platform? Yeah. How has that been as a, sort of, because I'm assuming you're a non-technical founder then, as in, like, you don't know how to program and code and that sort of thing. How's that journey been, like, being the first time, like, non-technical founder of a SaaS company?
Hard. It's been hard, again, especially from someone that is, someone that is at the front of the pack, or actually, if you study wolves, the leader's at the back rather than the front. So that's someone that wants to kind of like, build, fight, protect, and solve everything for everybody. It's really hard because sometimes I might know or feel I know, whether it's a gut instinct, experience, or data that I've been given. There's nothing I can do about it. And quite often I don't know. Nothing makes sense. This doesn't make sense. Why have we just fixed these 3 things? Why have these 8 things now stopped working? Can you something explain to me? And I can't do anything else about it. So it's also been a really interesting journey for me. I think it's leveraged into, and it's helped me grow and excel at, again, valuing the team approach and specialism, and having to work a little more patiently and and manage expectations, because it's hard. I think I'm someone that likes to understand, studies, learns, speaks to people, reads, and probably gets quite a good understanding of stuff. And I feel that I have in this space, but it's incredibly limited. It's a fragment of what is there, and it's 0% of being able to do anything else about it anyway. So yeah, it's not been it's not been easy because I'm used to fixing things and I can't fix it.
Yeah, when you were talking, then I was thinking about how that ties into you kind of saying you've slowed down, become more patient, and I can imagine you're growing a software company that you're not there coding, you're not there changing things, you're relying on a team, and it's like things go wrong, things change, and it's the interconnectedness of things that you're kind of more high level thinking, man, we've got to crack on, we've got to move forward, and it's really testing your patience as a leader for sure.
And I think there's some value in it. So Rob, who's our CTO, who is very different for obvious reasons in terms of his knowledge and strength and what have you. So ultra conservative. I'm at the other end of that. So I'm like, okay, fine. We both agree the data shows us we need this thing. When can I have it? Don't know. You must know. So you kind of go through that little bit. And then, we'll get to a number. I'm like, okay, fine. So imagine that money is no object. People are no object. You can have everything you need. What's the quickest version you can go and build this? Because I'm always looking at I'm looking at that commercial side of it. Because if you say to me, with the team we've got, the best will in the world, it's 8 weeks. If you can go and get me this, find me this person and spend that money, I can get it done in 3. I go, let me weigh up, is that 5 weeks worth that effort and cost? If it is, I'm going to go and do it. If it's not, I won't. So that's where I think the balance comes in quite nicely, where I've got to respect Rob and Rob's views, opinions, and expertise because I can't, and hopefully he's got a bit of respect for me in terms of that side of it, as much as I drive him nuts most of the time. I think it works out okay.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for right now, with everything that you've got going on?
So I'm most excited about, I'm excited about the direction of travel. I'm excited with what we have now. By nature, I'm someone that is also never content or happy. So that again can be a blessing and a curse. We've got a real clear vision that we are executing, whereby we have a product now that that does what it does, and that's great. There's a chunk of work that will be pushed very soon that just allows better integration, and it allows us to work with enterprise businesses in every way that they would want to work. Whereas at the moment, it's not entirely set up perfectly for that. So there's a little bit of moving and shaking, and actually we're better set up for sort of SME type businesses by having some front end candidate facing parts of the journey. Obviously, from an enterprise perspective, everything needs to be, it will be through their ATS, through their HR tech. No one sees, touches anything to do with Seesy. We just do what we do in terms of running the analysis and finding interesting and unique ways of enriching the application, making it really smooth, making it really informative, bespoke and personalized, and providing unique insight and data back, structured data back to the ATS. So really excited about our direction of travel. A few of the features that we are building now, again, to solve a problem. One of those features that's part of this will be, not only are we here to provide, we feel, the very best way to assess and analyze applications at the top of the the funnel on that richer data, which is your new applicants applying into your roles, but also it's the legacy applicants, silver medalists. Big businesses will have huge databases, ATSs, CRMs full of legacy applicants for one reason or another didn't get the job and they were taken to various stages. When you've got time poor TA teams and recruiters and what have you, it's very hard for them, I think, to go out there and dig into that database, find ones that might be interesting for this new live role, contact them and say, hi, what have you been up to? Tell me more about this. Are you interested? It's like a headhunter's job, and headhunter on more so volume recruitment doesn't really work. So our solution, we take to that. So we take our solution to that, whereby we can pull those legacy applicants in. We can review the applications. We will contact them with our agents to say, hey, James, you applied for the role. Something new I think you'd be amazing for. Are you interested? Yes, I am. Great. What have you been up to for the last 6 months? Been doing this. Tell me a little bit more about that. Okay, that's fantastic. Put you through. You've been assessed. We're inviting you to the first stage interview. So we're almost creating a digital version of a headhunter for that business to be able to find gold from what was potentially silver before. That obviously brings in efficiencies, fairness, reduction in spend, all that kind of stuff as well. So really excited with the direction. Ultimately, our goal is really simple, in the sense that we want to become a market leader that helps you highlight the very best applicants from those that apply or already exist, and allow us to do that, quicker, which is better for the applicant and better for the company. And that's what we're looking to do. That's what we're looking to lead. And as I say, we've got a great product that exists right now, but it's something that we are kind of iterating and improving. How we validate that statement, how we get to that North Star, we've got a real clear direction of travel on things that are important for that to happen.
Yeah, well, it sounds exciting. That direction of travel, and you're in a space that's, it's a very, very competitive space, and you're carving out your own sort of category and want to become that, the market leader in that and really build that authority. It's exciting times for you to really prove that out over the next, 12 months or however long it's going to take to really start to gain that traction and move forward. And we're in the tech space right now with AI and everything that's going on there is a very, very fast changing, fast paced environment. And yeah, to navigate everything that's going on. So yeah, exciting times for you. And if you could leave one piece of advice for fellow founders venturing into tech, especially as like say a non-tech founder like you, what would it be?
Well, bring your helmet and your gum shield. Um, yeah, no, I mean, look, if you're a non-tech founder, I think it's hard, in terms of one piece of advice. But I think I would start with don't don't expect or try to build a finished business or product. There's so many things that have to take place before that. It's really, really important that you just find that way as quickly and as inexpensive as possible, to validate your hypothesis. Find a way to test, because there aren't that many businesses that start as they start and end in the same way. There's either a totally different business or three different businesses, or there's several twists and turns and iterations. So I think, going to trying to build more of a finished article, raise a chunk of money, spend a huge amount of time and money on development, and then change is always harder. Um, one other thing that I think many businesses will make a mistake, and I feel on reflection we did, was we hired too many people too soon.
Mm.
That goes back to the test small, test quick, get some data validated, and then start to grow and build, rather than either build something or hire a team and then hope to grow into that team or sell this big thing that you built.
Mm. Yeah, solid advice, and I really appreciate this conversation, Adam. It's been really insightful. Like you've shared some really good, solid nuggets of wisdom. Where can people find out more about you online?
Well, LinkedIn. So Adam Corbett on LinkedIn. I think Adam Corbett on Instagram, and obviously Seesy. So if you search Seesy on LinkedIn, you'll find it. Anyone that wants, like I say, any insight into what we're doing, how we're using AI, video, traditional recruitment applications to assess them differently and better, we'd love to share some more about that. If anybody wants to chat, seek any advice, counsel, or what have you on business or anything in general, I love to talk, happy to help, and always willing to share.
Yeah, amazing. Well, yeah, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights, and I'll be watching your growth and the growth of Seesy with great interest.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.